Okay. All right. Here we go. Sorry, folks. I'm a couple minutes late because I hit go live and it went boo and just shut down. The whole thing crashed. Just my luck. Um, Normally, I don't have this kind of problem with technical gear. I'm kind of a camera guy as much as I am a reporter, and I was Oliver North's cameraman for 6 years, and I've worked as a cameraman for many years. Was a cameraman first, actually, and then here I am, for some reason here running this kind of stuff. There's always a little bug in the works. Thank you for joining us tonight. Greetings. The first thing I wanted to do was I want to give a shout out of congratulations to my lovely youngest daughter, Amy, and her new fiance, Mark Tomlin. They just got engaged about an hour ago as I was doing the live on my podcast over at the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. I was live and I got the phone call like while they were screaming and yelling and jumping around, and so I just wanted to say congratulations to Mark and Amy, and I hope they have many happy years together. Really fantastic. They are both students at Regent University, which is where CBN is, and so there's a lot of overlap between them and CBN. Mark was my intern this summer and actually helped me come up with a amazing, he didn't help me come up with it, he came up with it, an amazing artificial intelligence program, I guess is the best way to call it, that helps me write scripts for my CBN pieces much faster. I mean, much faster. And it's one of those things that either you're going to get in front of that technology and ride that wave, or you're going to get crushed by it. And so we decided to ride the wave, and it's been just amazing to see what these kids can come up with this AI. It's really fascinating. All right, we're going to talk about some breaking news real quick from Israel. I'm here in Jerusalem. It is currently 8:05 on Saturday, December 2nd, and 8:05 p.m. And we just heard from the office of Benjamin Netanyahu that he has spoken with the Mossad chief and has instructed him to bring his team home from Qatar and give up on the negotiations for the remaining hostages. They've been in negotiations for the remaining, I think it's 137 hostages, something like that, that are out there somewhere. And the office of the Prime Minister says that the counterparts, Qatari counterparts who are negotiating for Hamas, have not been forthright in the negotiations, and they're not meeting their agreements, and it's not worth messing with them anymore. So he instructed his team to come home, said thank you very much to the CIA and the Egyptian officials that were there, and they're done. They're done negotiating, and it's time to get back to fighting. Thank you, my dear. So, forgive me for trying to keep my voice box running here, but this is a second hour of TV I've made so far today. So, and I spent all day at a what would be called a Jewish settlement in the West Bank. I think it's just a village full of Israelis overlooking Bethlehem, which is kind of cool. Bethlehem is in one of those A zones, so you can't really visit Bethlehem. You can look at it from above and look down on it, but you can't really go in there because you'll probably die. And it was a nice day. Shabbat. We got invited over to lunch for one of my viewers, one of you. Apparently, I've been surprised at how many viewers I have here in Israel who are not they're not following the Christian Broadcasting Network beforehand. They're just finding us because they're looking for updates on the war, and they're following me. I go to the grocery store, and people go, "Hey, you're that guy." And are you good? You leaving? Yeah, I'm live. Yeah. Just say goodbye to my cameraman over here. One of the guys that came over from DC to help, and he is his name is Haney, and he's been a big help. We're very glad that he's been here. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, man.
You too.
All right, God bless you.
Stay safe.
So we got invited out to have lunch, Sabbath lunch with this Jewish couple that lives out in a place called Efrat. Efrat is the name of the village. There's like 17,000 people that live there. A lot of Americans, apparently. These guys are Americans, and they moved. They're Jewish. They moved to Israel. Felt called to do that, and it was a wonderful lunch. They got 3 great little boys, and it was just a wonderful time. Nice home cooked meal, very good food, and the nicest family that I've run into out here. But I haven't been invited in to eat with a lot of them, so that's a small list, but very, very kind people, and it was very instructional to get a chance to talk to them about the issues that they face in the settlement there, and just how skewed. The one takeaway, I won't belabor this whole thing, but the one takeaway I got from spending time with these folks, going for a walk with them around, meeting some of their friends and stuff, is that virtually everything that you hear in the media about the illegally occupied West Bank and the illegal settlements that the Jews have there is wrong. Virtually everything you hear is wrong. It is intentionally wrong to try to change your opinion about Israel. And the people who are living in these villages are not illegally there. They are completely legal. They are not wandering around with assault rifles looking for an Arab to kill. That's not happening. But they are in very great danger, very grave danger. And I wanted to mention that because, that's probably the most dangerous place in Israel right now to just be living, because they have evacuated most of the people from the north and from the south. Many of those people are living right over here in this hotel right across from me. And they have been there now for coming on 2 months. That's got to be really difficult. Not being able to be in your home, not being able to go to work and all that kind of stuff. But there's 500,000 more Israelis living in the West Bank, and they haven't been evacuated. And perhaps they should have been, but they haven't been. Israel has beefed up security there. There are a lot of IDF troops that are stationed out there, mostly reservists. They're they're great, dedicated soldiers, no doubt, but they're not special forces or anything like that. They're the kind of the maybe not even the National Guard. They're more like the state militia. Okay, as far as their level of equipment, training, things like that. These are the guys that they have left over after sending the best infantry and stuff they can into Gaza. Again, there's nothing wrong with these soldiers, but they need more training. Their equipment's not the greatest. It's the older equipment that Israel has, and they are vastly outnumbered by angry Arabs all over the West Bank. So they have to, they pray a lot. And I was just talking to my friend Tim Miller tonight. Tim Miller is the guy that I had on a few nights ago to talk about, being prepared yourself for a terror attack in the United States. That's one question I'm getting a lot, is do I think that this will result in a terror attack in the United States? The answer is unequivocally yes. I do think that this will, all of this is going to lead to more terror attacks in the United States, and likely, possibly, uh, a massive multi-cell terror attack, which is more like what we saw here on October 7th. That would seem to suggest that you would want to be as prepared as possible for you and your family to be able to protect yourselves, defend yourselves in case of something like that. And that's all, of course, location dependent on where you live in the United States and what the security posture is like where you are. If you're in the Bronx, that's going to be different than if you're in, West Virginia, where we have a house, because it's not going to be a problem in West Virginia. They they probably wouldn't get 15 feet down our road even before they'd get picked up, because there's just a lot of armed people in West Virginia, and that's one of the things I like about it. So I was talking to Tim about the issue out in the West Bank, and Tim is kind of a spokesman for a company called Milo Range Training Systems, and you should go look that up. If you're a concealed carrier, if you're a guy that wants to be, prepared and trained to protect your family, I'm not getting paid to say this. I'm just saying that I know these guys, and they make a range training system that it goes indoors. It's got a projector, and it projects a video on the wall, but it's highly computerized, and so you have a dummy firearm, so to speak, like a laser firearm, and when you pull the trigger, the laser hits the wall, and the video actually changes based on your behavior. And so it's a very, very good training aid for policemen, for soldiers, and for everyday people who want to be able to make the right decision if you ever get into a really bad situation. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm not trying to sell those things. I'm just saying, I was talking to Tim about bringing some of those over here, and because one of the things that the guys I was talking to today were telling me is that, yeah, there's a lot of people out here that are getting permits for guns. This is where they're allowing people to get gun permits kind of on an expedited basis out here. They've had more than 200,000 people that have asked for a gun here in Israel since the October 7th attack. And they're getting the guns, but they're not getting enough ammo to train with. And so they're not getting the training they need. And that's a scary proposition. That's bad. So we're trying to think of ways that we can help to train these moms and dads. These are people who work on kind of the neighborhood watch on steroids kind of thing in those settlements, to train them up quickly to be able to correctly use their firearm, but more importantly, correctly discern when to use their firearm, because that's what the Milo system is all about. It's not so much about just standing on the range and bang, bang, bang. It's more about the mindset and the decision making that goes into a lethal force encounter, and how to make that decision in a split second, and then to deploy and execute. And so it's, again, something that we were talking about. We may need to actually try to raise some money for that, because those systems are not free, and we'd like to get some of those systems over here. If you know of anybody who would be interested in either helping to train Israelis or donating to help Israelis get trained with these systems, send me an email, please, hotzoneholton@gmail.com, hotzoneholton@gmail.com, and we'll start a conversation about that. Again, I'm not selling anything here. I'm just, because this is a great platform. There's a lot of people with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge that are watching me right now who could potentially, and I'm getting emails all day long, hundreds of emails a day, from people who are saying, how do I help? How do I help? I want to help. I want to do something. And I've been pointing them to websites where they can donate and that sort of thing. But if this is your thing and you want to help, then I felt led to just say that tonight, and contact me, and we'll start the process. See what we can do. I don't know what we can do, but we'll see. Okay, so the breaking news again is that Benjamin Netanyahu has called back his team of negotiators from Qatar and has shut down negotiations for getting any further hostages out. He says that Hamas is being disingenuous, that they're not really serious about releasing any more hostages, and so it's not worth bothering with, and they pulled their guys home. This leads us to the next point I want to talk about, which is the real challenge facing Israel. Just a second, I'm going to close this door. Oh, wait, I can't close the door. Can you hand me that power cord, please? I need the power cord so my battery doesn't die. So the real problem that they are facing in the Gaza Strip, and I mentioned this on the last live, is that they are finding now, the further they push into the Gaza Strip, they're finding two things that are disheartening, to say the least. One is that Gaza is a giant, that you've heard it called a giant open air concentration camp or prison. That's a lie. It's not a prison. Those people, they're not imprisoned. But what it is a giant open air military base. The whole thing. Gaza has been militarized from top to bottom. Every building essentially belongs to Hamas or is used in some way. And so if you're trying to be if you're trying to be precise, and you're trying to drop, bombs only on the people that need killing, the problem is virtually everything out there is a military target, in one sense or another. Like, you could make a case for dropping a bomb on virtually every building in Gaza, because they're finding everywhere. They're finding ammunition stored. They're finding rat holes for these tunnels, rocket launchers, rockets, things like that. Today we saw footage of them going into a house, and there was a room in the back of the house that had boxes of UN aid in it. When they pulled the boxes out, underneath all the boxes were about a couple feet thick of rockets, just piled up in this room of just a regular residential house. And they're saying that almost every place we go is like this. And if it's not, it's got booby traps, or it's got a bunker in it or something. And they're just like getting a real sense now of the fact that we might have to demolish everything in here. Like, if we're going to just demolish all the infrastructure used by Hamas, then we pretty much have to bulldoze this whole place. And it's a giant open air military base with 2.5 million people milling around on the military base. That's a huge problem. Huge problem. And when we talk about civilians in Gaza, if you happen to see, I'm not going to show you on this, because every time I show a Gaza, an IDF video, YouTube demonetizes the video. So I'm putting the videos I'm talking about up on my website, chuckholton.com, chuckholton.com. That'll take you over to the locals page, and you can see the videos there. You can subscribe to see all my, books, movies, other reporting, everything that I put up over there. But why he drinking tea, though? Yeah, I'm drinking tea because my voice is shot, okay? Lemon ginger, and it's good. My wife is keeping me full of this stuff. So I drink about a gallon of this on every live that I do, and then I run to the bathroom in between. And that's my night, folks. But, okay, so these videos I'm putting up over on locals, and you can find them over there. The IDF is telling the civilians to leave certain areas. Like, we're going into this area tonight, going into this city block. Everybody needs to leave, and they don't. They don't leave. They stay there. There may be reasons for that, but they stay there. Now, I saw some photographs today where Israel dropped a bomb on a building, and it, of course, rubble everywhere. And there's a kind of high angle photo looking down at all these people milling around in the rubble, and they're all military age males wearing civilian clothes, all of them. There's dozens and dozens of them. Now this is in northern Gaza. They shouldn't be in northern Gaza unless they're a Hamas fighter. All of them are wearing civilian clothes, and Hamas doesn't. If you think about it, their fighters really don't wear a uniform. They might wear military-ish garb, but they're not wearing a uniform. When you say uniform, the whole point of that word uniform is that all of the soldiers look the same, so that when you're over here and you're looking over there, you can tell, is that my team or not? But Hamas doesn't. Their guys don't dress that way. They might dress in camouflage pants or whatever, but they're all just wearing whatever they want to wear. They don't have a uniform. And so these guys that are dressed in sweatpants and t-shirts and stuff that are running around in Gaza, that are military age males, they very well could be Hamas fighters. We just don't know until they're shooting at you. And believe me, having spent 20 years covering the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, getting involved in a place like that, that's called an insurgency, by the way, when civilians are the ones who are shooting at you, or they act like civilians. Fighting in an insurgency is a very long-term prospect. That's not something that you're going to get done with in a month or two. And that is a real problem for Israel, because they are bumping up against world pressure. The whole world, especially the United States, is cranking down the pressure on the IDF to end this, and the United States is apparently very angry that the IDF is not continuing to supply Gaza with all these supplies, 200 truckloads of supplies every day, which they agreed to do during the ceasefire, but now it's not a ceasefire. And the U.S. is like, yeah, but you should still be sending those 200 trucks of aid in there every day. But they can't search all that aid. There's no way. And that aid could aside from the fact that whatever food and water and fuel that you send in there is going to be assisting Hamas fighters who are in there in staying alive. But in these giant trucks of aid, 40-foot containers, hundreds and hundreds of them, it would be very, very easy to be shipping in ammunition, explosives, grenades, rockets, anything. And especially since the United States is funding both sides. They're funding the IDF and they're funding the Palestinians. We're looking at a recipe for not a 2-month war, not a 6-month war, not a 1-year war. We're looking at a recipe for total war forever until we run out of money. That's what we're looking at. When you're paying for both sides to continue fighting, you're going to keep having war until you run out of money. Because Israel is not really going to be able to kill its way out of this. There's just too many people in Gaza, and they're all pretending to be civilians, even though most of the civilians probably are supportive of Hamas, although that may be changing. But there's just too many of them. And they obviously they can't kill all the people in Gaza. They don't want to kill all the people in Gaza. They didn't want to kill any of the people in Gaza until October 7th happened. But in order for them to end this, they're realizing that there's so much stacked against them right now. Everything in Gaza is a military target. The people in Gaza are not going anywhere, and they're not friendly to Israel. So they're essentially, if they're not Hamas fighters, they're supporting Hamas in one way or another. The world body is putting the screws to Israel to try to end this thing right now. And so their objective of wiping out Hamas is starting to look more and more distant, even as they make progress in Gaza. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody in Israel is united in their desire to see this happen. Everybody in Israel is behind Netanyahu when he says, we are going to prosecute this war until the end. They're all behind him. But the facts on the ground are very, very challenging for them. They're going to have to come up with a definition of getting rid of Hamas that is actually doable. And you understand, when they say we're going to get rid of Hamas, you kind of have to ask, what does that mean? Because again, you can't kill everybody that is partial to Hamas, or you'd have to kill at least 70% of the people in the Gaza Strip. And they can't do that. You could say, well, we're going to destroy all the Hamas infrastructure, but if almost every house is in some way related to the fight, because the whole of the Gaza Strip has been militarized, well then, what does that look like? What does destroying the infrastructure of Hamas look like? Again, they're going to have to come up with a definition that works, that they can. That's something they can accomplish. I'm not saying they have to compromise. I'm saying they need to tightly define what getting rid of Hamas means, and they need to do it quick. And I believe that the IDF is, because they say that the sheer volume of combat in Gaza right now is much higher than it was before they stopped fighting, when they declared the humanitarian pause or whatever it was. They say the volume of fire, the op tempo has gone way up. Why is that? Well, because Israel feels the heat of all of these, their ostensible benefactors, the United States, breathing down their neck to stop it. And they're like, we got to hurry and do what we're going to do in Gaza, or we're not going to be able to finish it. And so they're going extra hard. But what that does is it virtually guarantees that more IDF soldiers are going to die, because you can't be as methodical and careful as you need to be to accomplish your goals without getting your people killed. You have to basically just run for it. And that's maybe an oversimplification, but without a doubt, it means that the IDF is going to have to put their men at more risk in order to accomplish their objectives, or at least have a shot at accomplishing them. And that means more IDF soldiers are going to die. When I went down and talked to the major from the IDF a couple days ago, who is from the engineering unit, is in charge of blowing up the armaments that they find and disarming booby traps and blowing up tunnels and things like that. We talked at length about this problem, and he's like, you don't understand. I mean, the infantry guys are like, we got to go, come on, and they're pushing all the time, but the engineers are back here going, don't go, because every step you take is mined. He said, you would not believe the amount of time and effort that Hamas put into booby trapping everything in sight in northern Gaza. And it's going to be even worse in southern Gaza, because you're going to have that problem plus a couple million people to contend with, many of whom are military-age males who are actually Hamas fighters that you don't know they're fighters until they're shooting at you, because they're dressed in civilian clothes. When they hide among the civilian populace, they are going to be very, very in a lot of danger. They're going to be in a lot of danger going into this, much more than they already are. And I don't want to come across as if I'm, thinking that Israel's going to lose. Nobody wins in a war like this. It's just who's going to lose less. Hamas may very well end up being deposed as a political party. But in cases like this, it's not uncommon for whatever replaces Hamas to be more extreme and more violent and more brutal than even Hamas was. And I'm not even sure that's possible at this point, but without a doubt, Israel is not going to be able to leave the Gaza Strip anytime soon. I'm talking years. They will likely be in there for years and maybe forever. Some of the people I talked to today were like, yeah, that whole two-state solution thing, that's a non-starter anymore. Don't even talk to us about that. That is not going to happen. That two-state deal, not going to happen. That would require Israel to go into the West Bank and forcibly displace 500,000 of its own citizens and give their homes up to people who didn't pay for them. And they're saying it's not going to happen. We're not going to allow it to happen. And no matter what the Biden administration thinks they're going to be able to accomplish, they're not. They're going to fail. But then again, that's what governments are good at, especially this one. And so they're like, don't even talk to us about a two-state solution now. Now, I wanted to get to a few questions real quick, and then I've got one last thing too. Hey, babe. I just ran out of tea. Okay, let's see. Let's get some questions going here. Let's see. I've had a lot of people asking me lately about nuclear, whether or not there's a threat of nuclear bomb going off here in Israel or anything like that. No, I don't think so. That's an easy, short answer. More concerning is our young people in North America supporting Hamas ideology because these young people are our future. That is correct. Our happy life, that is 100% correct. And I think a lot of people in the United States don't understand that Qatar is funding the brainwashing of our children in the United States. Qatar is putting tons of money into universities all around America to heavily influence our children to become more pro-Palestinian. And that's why the difference between 9/11 in 2001, where you saw America come together, albeit briefly, but you did not see any pro-Al-Qaeda, pro-Taliban protests going on all across America. Contrast that with today, where you have all of these pro-Palestinian, thank you, babe, pro-Palestinian protests going on across America, and you can see that Qatar and Iran have been very effective at their strategy of brainwashing our children. They've partnered up with American universities, and they're putting a lot of money into that. China is doing that as well. There's a lot of reporting on that, and you can go find it. I don't need to go into that here. Thank you for the contributions. If you would like to follow my reporting, all of the reporting I do, you can go to chuckholton.com, and find everything you want to know about me, or just go to my Hot Zone podcast here on YouTube, The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. It's got my picture on it. Can't miss it. And you can follow. I do daily lives over there as well on slightly different subjects, and can answer more questions over there than I can here. Okay. Somebody stands with Palestine, and I feel sorry for you if you stand for Palestine. Yep, stand with Jesus. Sounds like we don't have our guys on. They were not sure they were going to be able to come on. Question: going to West Bank to view the graffiti, your friend. Okay, going to West Bank to view the graffiti, your friend. That's not a question. I'm not sure what you're asking there. Sorry. You might need to rephrase that as an actual question. Okay, let's see what other questions we got. Thank you for watching, folks. I'm very grateful for all of you and for the messages you send. Again, you can reach me at hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Let's see. We've had a lot of people, you know, there's one female hostage left that was not returned. I'm wondering if it's because she's no longer living. All of the hostages that are now left are men, adult men, except for that one woman, as far as I know. If they are going to be rescued, it's going to be in ones and maybe twos. Like I said, it wouldn't make sense for Hamas to keep all those guys in one place. They're all spread out, and this is what we're finding out about the just how deep Hamas is interwoven across the whole society in Gaza, is that they are like basically farmed out these hostages to individual families. So like it'd be like your pastor at your church calling you up and saying, "Hey, we got some kid here that showed up and he's from Cuba. Would you mind giving him a place to stay for a couple days?" And you'd be like, "Sure." And you'd take him in, you'd treat him well, give him ice cream and everything. This is that, except evil. So Hamas calls and says, "Hey, guess what? You get to harbor this hostage for us and keep him alive, or you and your family are going to die. But you don't have to treat him, with respect or anything like that. Just make sure he doesn't get away." And so they lock him up in the mop closet, or lock him in the attic or in the basement or something like that. And that's where most of these guys are. And so they along with the fact that they don't have any knowledge of if or when they will ever get out, they also don't have the comfort of being able to commiserate with their fellow hostages, most likely. Most likely many of them are being held alone. And so I think we need to redouble our efforts to pray for these remaining 137 hostages. And there is a website you can go to that lists them all by name. I would highly recommend that you go and do that. You go. We'll see if we can post that. Matter of fact, I'll post it over on my website, chuckholton.com. I'll post a link to that website so you can go and find the names of the remaining hostages. We shouldn't forget about these guys just because they're not cute little women and children. These guys had no desire, obviously, to spend the holidays with Hamas, and there's a good chance that most of them are being very poorly treated. So we need to pray for comfort and safety and health for these guys and pray that they come home. While I'm asking for prayer, let me also ask that you hit that like button right there. While we're talking, you can go look, hit the little thumbs up button down there, because it according to the algorithm here on YouTube, it really does help. When I was doing the live on my channel over there, I normally have maybe 1,000 people watching or something, and then my daughter decided to get engaged, and my wife brought me the phone live while she was getting engaged, and so I showed it to the people watching, and everybody started making comments, "Congratulations, Jay, hitting the like button," and all that. And lo and behold, in short order, we had 3,000 people online watching. And so what that means is that YouTube actually takes the video and sees that it's very popular because there are a lot of people interacting. There's a lot of, chatter, and it shows it to people that never would have found it before. Why is that important? Well, if you're watching this broadcast and you're a Christian, that's important because there are people out there who need to hear the gospel and need to get connected with the gospel. And every year, thousands of people do that through CBN's work. And so I would recommend that you support CBN in that way. But if you can't afford to actually go to cbn.com and donate, then the least you can do is make a comment, hit the like button, subscribe to CBN. CBN has gotten about 300,000 new subscribers since the start of this war. that obviously are the 300,000 people. I hear from people every day who say, I didn't even know what CBN was. I'm not a Christian. I never would have watched CBN, but I love what you're doing. So I watch you every night. That is powerful. That's amazing. There are many mainstream primetime news channels, news programs that don't get 300,000 viewers each night. This little silly, informal, sitting around here, just fireside chat kind of thing that I'm doing is somewhere around 300,000 or more a day, and that is mind-boggling to me. I can't believe that, but we just, you know how it goes. We just do our humble work, and we let God do what He wants to do with it. So apparently, God wants us to be YouTube famous at this point, and that's weird, but whatever. It's not at all what I thought I would be doing when I came to Israel on October 10th, or when I left my home the last time, which was like the 1st of October or something like that. So looking forward to Christmas. I hope you all have a great one. Here's some questions. Great. Did IDF lose much ground during the pause? No, they didn't lose much ground, Limerick. They had to retake some of it because they had kept a defensive line and then pulled back the guys that were behind that line and let some of them go home. They rotated people back and stuff, but they didn't lose a lot of ground. They do have to kind of re-clear some of it just to make sure it's safe. Let's see if there's any other reporting here. Thank you for subscribing, Welch Cat. Appreciate that. Do I know Douglas Murray? I've seen him a lot. We end up in the same places. I know who he is. He probably doesn't know who I am, but he's a great reporter, and he really knows his stuff. And you've probably seen him. He's not shy to tell a host that has him on if the host is completely wrong, which I love. Did the idea? Okay, Limerick asked that one a couple times. Thank you for being a partner on the 700 Club. Patty Hudspeth, appreciate that. All right. Well, I have another live I've got to get on here in a few minutes. So if you don't have any more questions, we're going to pray and we're going to go. What do you think Trump would do if he was president right now? You mean besides blasting out angry tweets from while he's sitting on the toilet? I am sure that he would be supporting Israel much more than the Biden administration is, without a doubt. I mean, he's the one who moved the embassy to Jerusalem. That's an awesome thing. Great, good on him for that. But we are seeing around the world, this is something I'm going to address on my podcast. We are seeing a reduction of stability around the world, and I would draw a direct line from that to a weak and feckless foreign policy on the part of the United States. I'll talk about that more on my own channel, where I can kind of get into more of what my opinion is, but I think that's fair to see, plain to see all around the world. Keep your eye on Venezuela and French Guiana, because it's very likely that Venezuela will invade French Guiana in the next day or two, even. So keep your eye on that. And I'm like, can you guys please just space out your wars a little bit? Because there's only one of me. I can't go to all of them. And I'd love to go to Guyana right now, but I still need to be here. And like, can we just take a break for a while? That'd be really nice. Let's see. Did I see the vid Russians say is one last woman being moved after attack on Khan Yunis today? I didn't. I've been on live most of the afternoon, so I'll have to go look that one up. Question, West Wall critique it as promised. I'm sorry, Richard Romano. That's not a question, and I'm not sure what you're talking about. Am I going to get Jonathan on the interview? I've asked him to come on an interview. We have him on the CBN programs on a regular basis. He hasn't been on in the last week or two because he's been, I'm sure, super busy. And I'm hoping to get him on this show sometime, but I've reached out to him and he hasn't got back to me, so we'll see. He does get back to me, but he usually takes a long time to get back to me, and I'm sure he's got a ton of, I mean, I know how it goes. It's fine. Isn't Israel freeing Palestine from Hamas? Well, that's their intent. They surely intend to. Our question, does Israel control Jerusalem? Yes, they control Jerusalem. Which live are you doing next? Newsmax. I've got a Newsmax at the top of the hour here. Oh, and so I got to go because I got 2 minutes. Let's pray. All right, Lord, thank you so much for the privilege of being here, even though it's a tragedy. From our perspective, we know that you're powerful enough to turn tragedy into triumph, and that is not just a cliche. God, your people need you here. And so please come. Please send your Holy Spirit. Send your angels to camp around the soldiers of the IDF and let this be over quickly. I think that's enough said for tonight. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, folks. God bless you. We'll see you later. Take care.